Wilson was on before.
No, she was.
Yeah. Looked like she was setting it up and then
She disappeared.
Might have to read this, I should have cleaned it. I'll call the meeting of Corman County Board of Commissioners to order. Please rise for a moment of silence, prayer, and pledge of allegiance. Oh God, thank you for the gift of this new day, and thank you for the blessings of this life. Family, friends, work, and purpose, guide us as we discuss, plan, and dream together. Help us to make wise and just decisions. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These proceedings are being recorded for the sole purpose of constituting the accuracy of written minutes. Tapes are reused, eliminating recorded records of these proceedings. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held May 12th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Approval of the minutes of the public hearing meeting on the Act 167 Stormwater Management for Broadhead McMichael's 2006 and Toby Hanna 1997 plan was held on May 5th, 2022.
Motion approved. Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes. Are there any guests concerning county business at this time? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this is the right time or not, but I would like to tell you how wonderful a job that Ann Horrigan has done over the years with our senior citizens. And I just want her to know that I'm out here and I appreciate all that she does, all the hard work that she has given the Area Agency on Aging over all the years. And I want to thank Ann Horrigan.
Thank you very much for those comments, and just quick comments on that. We're at the height of the games and numbers are down a little bit, unfortunately. Might be because we lost quite a few, I'd say, unfortunately, and people are a little afraid to go out yet, but it's a little scaled back. But mark your calendars for May 2nd of next year for about 10 days. Put it on our calendars so I can attend more events. I got one down and one to go. So, but I thank you very much. And I think there's one thing that we agree on 100%. And as long as we're there, I'd say that we'll continue that as much as we can, because so many of our seniors look forward to it. And a quick blurb on that is the senior centers. The lack of participation, I guess I should say, is that when we were going out to celebrate the 50th anniversary of it, the numbers were really low and people were questioning us on, why aren't we getting the meals or things of that nature. Well, we have to have the numbers coming out to the centers to justify the delivery of the meals. So I don't know why we are not getting the seniors out there like we should be. The more we get out there, the more funding we get as well, and the more services that we can provide. So it's extremely important that, people like yourself encourage others to go to the senior centers and attend the senior games. But thank you for bringing that up. Any other guests? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Next item, for adoption, a proclamation acknowledging the month of May as National Drug Court Month. This is proclamation number 2022-013.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yeah.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes, This time I'd like to read the proclamation, Carbon County, Pennsylvania, proclamation designating May as National Drug Court Month. Proclamation number 2022-013. Whereas treatment courts have been restoring lives and families for more than 3 decades, and whereas there are now nearly 4,000 treatment courts nationwide, and whereas Carbon County started a Veterans Treatment Court in January of 2017, and whereas the Carbon County started a Drug Treatment Court in January of 2019, and whereas treatment courts are the cornerstone of justice reform sweeping the nation, and whereas the treatment courts have served 1.5 million individuals, whereas they are now recognized as the most successful justice system intervention in our nation's history. Whereas they save an average of $6,000 for every individual they serve. Whereas treatment courts significantly improve substance use disorder treatment outcomes, substantially reduce addiction and related criminal activity, and do so at less expense than any other criminal justice strategy. Whereas treatment courts improve education, employment, housing, and financial stability, promote family reunifications, reduce foster care placements, and increase the rate of addicted mothers delivering. Oh, wait, that doesn't sound right. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yeah, okay. Increase the rate of addicted mothers delivering babies who are fully drug-free. Whereas treatment courts demonstrate that when one person rises out of substance use and crime, we all rise. Now therefore be it resolved, the Carbon County Board of Commissioners designate May 2020 as Drug Court Month and further recognizes the positive impact that both the veterans and drug treatment courts have on the Carbon County community. Adopted this 19th day of May 2022, signed by the Board of Commissioners and tested by Eloise Honor Administrator.
And I'd like to continue a little bit on this. Last night I was at the graduation and, everybody was commending everybody on what they were doing. I mean, Judge Matika gave Rick a commendation for that this wouldn't have happened without his guidance. And Rick has given guidance to all the staff. And I know that Rick is leaving, but I think the people that I see in that group will carry on what you have done and what you have brought to us. And looking at them, they're going to bring also new ideas to carry on what you started. So I think we're well blessed that we have this group here. And I think one of the things here, like I talked to different counties, and some counties don't even have what we have. And we're a small county, and this is a national thing that we're doing here today. And I think Carbon County is a role model for what has to be done here. And I think Carbon County and the residents and some of these people, they string their lives out. I mean, they want their kids back, them are good things to see. And when you see 7 people at a time doing that and it keeps continuing, I mean, this is what it's here for. I mean, we're here to help the people, but like I'm going back to it, Carbon County is a role model for this proclamation. So thank you very much for Rick and everybody that's involved in it and the people that are going to be here when you leave. So thank you.
Rick, if I might add that, I think you realize that too often initiatives are based on personalities of the leaders. And a true leader is able to change a culture of an organization so that his impact is felt or her impact is felt far beyond after their departure. And I think you've developed a culture throughout the court system and within the county that will ensure the survivability of the program well into the future. And I think that's a true testament to your leadership. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that because of you, Rick, you have done a tremendous job on grant writing and bringing the funding to Carbon County to provide all these programs. You have spent many, many hours above and beyond and have really, I don't know if we could even put a number on it, but it's several $100,000, if not millions of dollars that came into the system to provide these services because of your expertise and tenacity and writing all these grants. But we want to thank you for that. So if you will, if you'd like to come up and please talk about
Real quick,
the.
I'll bring up April, speaking of my team.
Yes, it is a team method, effort. It takes, most people don't realize how many are on the board or committees that meet and discuss all the issues. Probably, 15, 20 people at minimum, that are involved in each case. As they go through the system and trying to get them the proper help. So if you want to talk about that.
Yeah. Number one, thank you very much, all three of you. Actually tearing up a little bit, so we go right into the treatment court side. Why the treatment courts work, I think it's because that team. You know, when you, anybody comes in any of our court sessions, and there are public sessions on Wednesdays, you'll see, you know, as the Commissioner mentioned, 20 individuals all working together, trying to come up with a plan and trying to help a person move through all their barriers, all their struggles. And that's truly the key here is individualized. We identify what does that individual need? And then we work as a team to try to address those problems. Not everybody succeeds, but we try our hardest to make sure that we can, at the end of the day, sit there and say, we did our best. You look at the graduation last night. I mean, there were 7 individuals that have been in and out, not all of them, but many of them have been in and out of our prison system numerous times. You know, one of the individuals talking about coming into our court with 7 cases and how she overdosed and died and was brought back to life. And now she is sober, living a clean life, has a job, has children back in her life, has developed those relationships. All those things would not have happened if she didn't have the support and guidance of a treatment court. Now, I'm so proud that, you know, back in 2016, when the commissioners and the courts and we all got together and we said, hey, we can do this. And we started our first, the Veterans Court back then. And then we already started seeing the success. And that's when the commissioners and again, the courts, we got together and we said, hey, we can do this now with the drug court. We can make it even better. You know, our capacity is at 50. Right now, we have about 45, but we probably have 8, 10 applications in the pipeline. So we'll be at full capacity, even with the graduation last night in the very near future. You know, this is what the courts can be and should be all about, is changing lives and making our communities better and safer.
Either you, Rick, or April, do you want to mention or talk about all the different agencies that are involved in that team and trying to help these individuals out?
Yep. I'm going to go off the top of my head and then April will fill in where I forget, because I'm sure I will miss someone. Of course, Judge Matika's leadership is huge. And, you know, this was a dream of his when he was running for judge. You know, we have Mike Greek, you know, the district attorney. We have the chief public defender, Paul Levy. You know, obviously I have the staff from my office. But in addition to that, we also have Carbon Monroe Pike Drug and Alcohol has really invested a lot of their resources and their personnel to our team. We also have individuals from Carbon Monroe Pike Mental Health. Same thing, they've devoted numerous members of their team to our team. We also have individuals from Victim Resource Center, County Veterans Affairs. We also have the VA itself also provides support. And we also have someone from Pennsylvania Career Link who was also on the team. Did I miss it? Wow, that's it's a rarity. So it is, you know, a lot of people investing, you know, and a team investing into individuals and trying to make a difference.
I know in the beginning of the program, it was a hard sell because of the cost and the commitment of the county. But when you look at the long term and the outcomes, less people in the correctional facility, less people in adoption and the children and youth programs and all the way around. Yeah, we suffered a little bit of a setback with the COVID and everything else, but hopefully we'll be on the right track again and keep people out of the system.
And I know I've said this many times, there's no way you can put a dollar figure on this type of change. People go quickly to jail beds, and I know we talked about, what does that actually cost is. But really, when you start looking about the impact on lives and on systems, on communities, that's where you can't put a dollar figure on any of that stuff. I know the proclamation talks about, I believe, $6,000. In my mind, it's $1 million, $10 million per person. How do you put a dollar figure on a person's life?
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, I'll be able to get it.
Nothing to say, bro?
I'm
No,
50
they're
cents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, well, she does all the, for clarity, they do all the work. I just sit behind.
Right.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay. Going.
The report of executive sessions held.
There was one executive session held on May 18th, 2022 at 11:30 a.m. for personnel reasons.
Department reports, the budget transfers.
Motion approved. Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Journal supplemental appropriations. Expenditures, approval of check numbers 228507 through 228646 for expenditures to the general fund clearing account totaling $1,423,365.47.
Motion approved. Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
The treasurer's report.
Move to accept. Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Personnel report for county departments.
Motion approved. Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
The acknowledgements for courts and row offices.
Motion to acknowledge. Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Correspondence was received as listed. Copies will be made available to the press upon request. Adult probation. For approval and execution, a memorandum of understanding between the county and the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts awarding funding in the amount of $11,940 for discretionary grants to support both the Carbon County Veterans Treatment Court and Drug Treatment Court for fiscal year 2021, 2022. Funds will be utilized to purchase drug testing supplies and incentives. The application was approved on March 3rd, 2022. Agenda items number 22114 and number 22115.
Motion approved and execute. Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Bid rejection. For approval, recommendation from the purchasing manager to reject all the bids received for the Muck Chunk Opera House HVAC project via pen bid opened on April 28th, 2022.
Move to approve and then on discussion. Second. Yeah, simply to clarify that while the purchasing manager has asked us to reject it, it came out of a request originating from the Mock Chunk Opera House. And therefore, I would direct any specific questions to the concerns with the bids to the Mock Chunk Opera House.
Correct.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Boards and authorities, Children and Youth Advisory Board, reappointments to 3-year terms to expire May 1st, 2025. Diane Lukey of Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, Kathleen Schwick, Lehighton, Pennsylvania, and David McAndrew Jr. of Summit Hill, Pennsylvania.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
CCT Lanta for an approval and execution. The 2021-2022 third quarter MATP report for submission to the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services as prepared by Lanta.
Move to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Loss prevention grant for approval and execution. Authorize the submission of an application to the Pennsylvania County's Risk Pool for the 2021-2022 loss prevention grant to purchase 11 ballistic vests to be used by the correctional facility staff when transporting inmates outside of the facility. Total cost $7,524 plus shipping.
Move to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Planning and Development, change order number 2, Westport Borough for approval and execution. Change order number 2, extending the completion date to the contract with Barker and Barker Paving Excavating of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for the Water Street improvements, Bridge Street, Westport Borough, fiscal year 2017, due to supply chain issues and PennDOT permitting and approval process. The new contract deadline will be July 25th, 2022.
Motion to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
The solicitors report?
Thank you. Seeking a motion for ratification of approval of a banner request that was received by the county from the Bach and Hondo Chorale for their spring concert at St. Mark's Episcopal Church on May 21st, 2022, with the banner to be placed at the train station from May 16th of 2022 until May 22nd of 2022.
Motion to ratify.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Seeking approval and execution of the form of worker protection and investment certification pursuant to the governor's executive order 2021-6.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
And for the 525 Iron Street project, for approval and execution of an agreement with Boyle Construction Management of Allentown, Pennsylvania, to provide professional construction management services for the Carbon County 525 Iron Street project to include architectural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing as follows. Boyle Construction, $239,000 plus time and material on any additional services. MKSD Architects in the amount of $48,400, and Snyder Hoffman Associates in the amount of $25,700.
Motion approved.
Second on discussion, and it's a question for the solicitor. Bob, are we sufficiently protected? We are having an opportunity to show how well we can work with the planning commission in Lehighton. Are we sufficiently protected? Should we run into obstacles where the planning commission does not approve our ultimate response to them in this contract?
Well, there is a pending application for a special use exception before the Lehighton zoning hearing board.
Right.
I'm reasonably confident in our position, but I certainly can't make any guarantees.
Yeah.
I think it's a reasonable use of the, so, and this is not a change of use from a residential property
Right.
to a commercial property. It's always been used for a commercial use, so
Right.
I'm reasonably confident in our position.
I'm just concerned that we're encumbering ourselves in the county for this amount based upon a planning assumption that the approval will take place. I think we've had some good discussion that shows, I think we can accommodate and make adjustments for that, but does this contract allow us a contingency should we not get the permission from the borough of Lehighton that we won't be encumbered for this full amount, eventually having to pay it?
As written, there is no such contingency in the contract.
And I think where we're heading, I think what brought a little heads up here was, I think, the 50 employee capacity.
38, yeah.
And that was the goal that we wanted to reach. And I think when I started here, we had 34 employees and now we have 26 that it's going down. And I think the reason for the solicitor, I mean, their solicitor is going to bring everything up that they should be bringing to the board. And I think our presentation has to get off of that 50 employees in there, because we will never have the 50 employees. Maybe one day, but if you look at any counties that are across the state, their complements are 100 and they only have 60% of their employees. That's standard. And where I think where we came to that 60 or that what was it, 48, the amount? That was a recommendation from the state. You know, the state is telling us that we should have 48 people, you know, and like I said, all the way across the state has been telling them people they need 100. Some departments need 150, and the average is they only have 60%, you know, that it is. So I think that's what raised the awareness of the solicitor from them, that there was too many people in the building maybe for what the parking was. And I think when we assessed it, the parking is at like 34, but there's other lines that would be made on the parking lot, which were never continued. And I think from Boyle, they were telling us that they could probably get up to 50, you know, 45, close to 50 parking spots, which is what I think what they're looking for. So I think it's pretty good. I mean, it was there. I mean, you never know what a board says. And I think, I don't know if whatever Mr. Lukasevich is looking for, there's always something that, and I think it is over the cases that they have. And there's only like 2 days out of the month that they have hearings there on the average. And if it doesn't pass, then we have the hearings up here in the courthouse. It's a very easy, simple fix. I mean, our caseworkers are driving all over, you know, they're going to Weatherly. They're going to Palmerton, you know, they're going all over. Like everybody thinks that it's court cases. Court cases are held in the courthouse or the magistrate. You know, I think they're mixing hearings up with what's going to be in there. And like I said, the latest stats that the director gave me, and I showed them to you, Bob, that it's only 2.5 days out of the whole month that they're using that for a hearing room. The other days, it's for training, which we want to get. We want to get training for our staff that we can be more efficient. And if it gets to the capacity that we do get that far, we're working on work from home policies. There's things that we can use technology to overcome that.
Yes, and this does not have to do with the application for the special use itself.
No.
I believe that we can meet all the criteria for that. It has to do with the ancillary issue that was raised by the planning commission as to parking concerns, which is always a concern in Lehigh and throughout Tarpon County of any kind of commercial development. But again, as you said, Rocky, I think it relates back to the specification of up to 48 employees there. It's not going to be 48 employees. I think that we can address that issue with the zoning hearing board, and if we need to exceed the number of employees that we will actually need, and there are parking issues, we could ask for conditional approval on that basis. I'm confident going forward.
I'll take the vote. Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
No.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Any further business?
And no further business, I want to announce the cancellation of the Railroad Commission meeting for Tuesday, the 24th at 1:30 p.m.
Commissioners reports, Mr. Honor?
I think I gave mine already.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yeah, just mentioned to the press, I would recommend getting a copy of the Bureau of Farmland Preservation 2021 annual report. One, because it's going to tie into, the report will tie in directly into the ballot initiative in November, which is going to support ag land preservation and open space. Because as a quick review, I saw that the county has facilitated the protection of over 13,000 acres through agricultural easements of about 1,820 acres, and then clean and green 11,664. I think most of us realize that we're kind of the safety valve for the Lehigh Valley when it comes to housing. It's extremely increasingly limited availability of housing in the Lehigh Valley. They're going to continue to see pressure, and that pressure is going to result in a migration into Carbon County, and that's a double-edged sword, right? Tax base is a good thing, but at the same time, it provides an inordinate a challenge to our infrastructure and our quality of life. So that ties into what we're doing in regards to ag land preservation and open space protection. It's going to be a challenge to find the right mix between economic development and our quality of life. But again, this report helps feeds into that conversation that we have to have moving forward. That's all I have.
I'd like to add on to that a little bit. At the Economic Summit sponsored last Friday by the East Stroudsburg University with Wayne, Pike, Monroe, and Carbon County all participating. And every county talked about open space and the preservation of land and what they're doing to try to preserve it, especially with the possibility of the extended rail line coming into Scranton, and who knows when. If that ever materializes, but it does look like it will occur eventually. So all four counties have great concern over that. And if you remember, we testified at the hearings with the water withdrawal for the Francis Boulder Dam. And one of the things I forgot to mention Friday, the people downstream are the ones that better start getting concerned as well in supporting the land preservation, because they look at the Bethel Water Authority has 2 reservoirs, and I didn't find a number yet of how many acres of land that covers. And and we don't get too much money out of that. We get some payment in lieu of taxes, but it's extremely low for the amount of acreage that is involved in the reservoirs for in particular, city of Bethlehem and surrounding areas, that millions of gallons a year, a day. So it should be of great concern to the people downstream. And I know none of those people attended that hearing on Francis Boulder Dam. That's all I have today. We'll adjourn the meeting, and if the news media would ask has any questions before we go into retirement. We do have a guest today, Sarah Wilson from Marquette will be joining us. So Amy.
May I just have copies, please, of the proclamation as well as the correspondence section?
Of course.
And yeah, okay, great.
Kelly, nothing?
What's the question that's gonna be on the November?
Marquette, one of our investment advisor. She's gonna be on.
The November election.
initiative.
Oh, the
in
ballot,
November.
yeah, that's the bond issue for farmland or land preservation for farmland, open space, et cetera, forest. Looking at a $10 million bond, and it'll be a question on the ballot in November. Okay.
Copies as well.
Sorry. Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
One year.
Okay. All right, ready? Okay, this time I'll call a monthly meeting of the Carbon County Retirement Board to order, and I'll turn it over to our secretary, controller, Mark Sverchek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everyone.
Morning.
Start with the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held April 21st, 2022.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Sverchek, yes. Mr. Zelinka, Mr. Honor,
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yes,
Thank you. Guests concerning retirement board business, we do have Sarah Wilson of Marquette joining us shortly here, and I see that she is on Zoom. Can you hear us, Sarah?
I can. Good morning, everyone.
Wonderful, great, good morning, thank you. Next is report of executive sessions, there weren't any held. The next is ratify of the warrant, that is checks number 40802 to 40808, and direct deposit numbers 7016714 to 7017116 for the month of April.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Spurcheck, yes, Mr. Zelinka,
Yes.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yes,
Thank you. The next thing is the report of retirement activity for the month of April. And we had 3 retirement refunds, 2 superannuation retirements. And of note, there was our longtime serving solicitor, Dan Miscavige, with over 20 years of service. And 1 retiree passed, Mr. John Pittook, 38 years of service to Weatherwood, and express condolences on behalf of the retirement board to his family. And we had monthly benefits of $468,003.73. Option 4, $2,777.54, and refunds of $99,356.43 for total disbursements for the month of April of $480,137.70. The portfolio value as of end of April was $86,865,487. And I also would like to provide the prior week's result as well. As of May 13th, it's $85,166,042. Of course, we're going the wrong way, as most funds and investments are, but I know that a lot of market turbulence going on right now, and Sarah's going to address that shortly for us. Any questions on that? Next, we did receive a correspondence from David Reichert of Corn Ferry, the county actuary, and I did share that with the board. And basically, he is recommending at this time that that Carbon County change their assumed rate of return from 7.5% to 7.25% because of the expectation that market returns will continue over time to decline, not increase. I know that Mrs. Wilson had the same recommendation as well. So I don't know, Sarah, would you like to provide the input at this time for the board?
Just to say, we've talked about this for several years. Trying to lower that. We understand that you have to put something in the budget. The one thing is that you've come off with a great year last year in returns, which means that the ADC is going to be lower this year. And so with that shift down to the 7.25, it's not going to be as much of an impact as if you were to wait for a couple more years, because looking at this market right now, we're in some very negative territory. So I understand it's, a budget. And if you can do it, I think for the health of the fund, it makes sense, because long term, this is really going to have an impact in this market. It's going to be a lot harder to hit 7.5. It's actually going to be a lot harder to hit 7.25. So if you can do it this year, I would recommend following the actuarial advice as well to do it.
And it's just something like the longer we wait, the worse it gets. I mean, it's like, it's like, is it good to do it now? I mean, you're saying, is that your recommendation? I mean, if we're gonna wait till next year, and what's gonna happen if they don't hit the mark at 7.5? What are consequences there?
So what happens is that, we know that over the course of, time, you're going to have some years that aren't going to hit 7.5. You're very well funded, but as the market returns, and we talked about that, and we'll look at the portfolio, one of the reasons why you went into real estate and infrastructure is to diversify, because we know that the market is not going to do that. So now is probably the better time. If you wait in 2 years from now, and let's say we have back-to-back negative returns for each year, it means that you're going to have to put more into the ADC, and your funding level is going to go down. So it will be harder and harder to hit that 7.5. So yes, it would be better to do it now than wait a year or 2 years if you can afford it. I do understand that there is, a budget and you have to, try and, meet your budget and be able to do it.
I would say, based upon our investment consultant's recommendation, our actuary's recommendation, the fact that the fund hit an all-time high as of 12/31 of 2021, the fund is well funded. I would actually make a recommendation that we proceed to do this now.
So is that a motion?
I'm sorry, that is a motion, yes.
Well, then I would second that motion, Mark.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Svercek, yes, Mr. Zelinka,
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
All right, next we would move on to the solicitor's report. Is there anything from our solicitor?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. And next, Sarah, back to you for your review of the first quarter results for the pension fund.
Okay, so I'm gonna go and share my screen, and so you can see, and I know you've got your books in front of you as well, so just tell me if you can actually, let's do that. All right, can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So let's just take this in mind that, we do have a lot of things that have changed, but I just want to talk a little bit about the first quarter and kind of go through a market update when we look at this. So when we look at real GDP, let's go to this graph right here. You can sit there and you can see that, there it goes down quarterly. That was the beginning of this pandemic. And then we saw really nice, it went up year over year, and now it's starting to go down. And then we have, a negative there. And look at these predictions. We're looking that GDP is going to go down a lot more in the next 6 to 18 months. We expect economic growth rebound for the rest of 2020. That has obviously changed in the last month or two. And we look at short-term interest rates down below, and we look at the future markets projection, and then we look at the Fed. Now, this was as of 3/31. Now, we know that the Fed came out and they raised rates again at 50 basis points. They're trying to curb inflation. Inflation came out at 8.3, where the market was expecting 8.1 year over year. And the Fed has really continued to say, look, we're going to continue this. We're going to continue to fight inflation. And we know the adverse effects it has on the stock market. And they are basically saying that we're comfortable with this going forward. Some people believe that they're going to go 75 basis points. That was the talk. I think right now we're going to look at 50 basis points, but we are going to look that they can continue to do this for the next 6 meetings there going on there. Let's go to, let's go page down. So we look at yield spreads, we look at consumer confidence. One of the things that came out this week in consumer confidence, for the first time, consumer discretionary is down due to Target and Walmart came out. People are having less money to buy. They're going just buying the basics. TV sales were down. We look at what's happening with that, and we look at the key is whether the Fed can engineer a soft landing, leaving the economy in a mid-cycle slowdown, or whether the actions may tip the economy into a recession over the next couple of years. Right now, we're kind of on the sidelines. We have been looking what the market's done. This week, especially yesterday, was a very hard day in the market. We want to go down to the global economy, and that's on page 12. And I think this is really interesting because we look at global and we'll talk about how that's affected some performance. Now, we know that, the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the spiking energy costs, I'm sure everybody is feeling that. They're saying that we're looking at going close to $5 a gallon. Last year, the average consumer spent $2,800 for gas for a year. This year, they're going to look at it may top to $5,500. So when we look at the consumer confidence, we put this graph in here, You can see the European confidence. So look that, that was March, that was the pandemic. Then, it went up. We kind of saw relief from the pandemic, and then it's gone down again. And then we put in the China PMI composite. And so the first graph is every 2 years. You're kind of looking at the span. I thought it was important to go look at this. This is quarterly. So we go down, it dipped in March, obviously, went up, then it's dipped again, and now it's dipping as well. So we look at that China has have the zero COVID policy, which actually, in fact, has not really been working for them. We look that they are a leading exporting, and so that has had a lot to do with shortages. And when we look at the global asset class performance on page 13, I'm going to show you emerging market equities. One of the things that happens in a down market, and you will see, and we'll talk a little bit about that and the exposure you have to it, when the market starts to rebound, emerging market equities will start to rebound much faster. We look at the US equities for the trailing 12 months. For the 1 year, it was 11.9. It was down the quarter, 5.3. International is 5.2. And then we go look at commodities, up 49.3%. And for the quarter, 25.5. We look at US REITs, were down 5.3 for the quarter. You actually had some positive performance in your real estate manager, and 1 year, 23.6. When we turn the page to page 14, you can look at consumer discretionary. That is also gone down, as I mentioned before. And what we have found is consumers are going to have a very hard time trying to buy anything but the basics in this current marketing when we see this inflation going up. Energy obviously is up for the year, 64.8. And then we look at value stocks, and this has helped you. And I do have some updated performance to share with you as well. Value stocks top growth stocks for the first time since Q1 of last year. Last year, we saw some volatility as well. Previously to that, value stocks have underperformed growth stocks, but we still believe that having that little tilt helps protect the market in the down there. And then US stocks have outperformed non-US equities in such episodes. And I said that we'll probably see more of a rebound in there. And then we look at US fixed income on 15. Interest rates rose sharply across the yield curve. Right now, bank, if you went to get a mortgage last year, we were almost at 0%. They were about 2.7. Now we're looking at mortgages at 4.5. And it just came out, April came out today with April housing sales, and they have been sales of previously owned homes in April are the lowest pace since the COVID pandemic started. We're going to start seeing for new home buyers, especially young home buyers, it's going to be difficult out there because savings are going to start to be used to be able to do the day to day. We see rents going up. And then are there any questions so far on the market? All right. We can redo that. Let's go to your portfolio overview. So let's look at what's going on. That's page 20. All right, so observations, you were at 91.5 for the quarter, March 31st. You did have a net investment loss of 4 million, but you returned 4.1 versus a policy index of 4.2. For the trailing 12 months, you actually had a net investment gain. So that's March to March when we looked at it, of 6.4, and you returned 7.2. Since inception, and I think this is important, you've had an annualized return of 8.3 and a net investment gain of 44.4 million. And that's since we have taken over as consultants. And I think that's important because at 8.3, you could say, all right, we just talked about lowering your actuarial assumption, and you could say your 8.3 is, look, we're beating it. That number is extremely different as of the close of April. So we'll be able to look at that. You had positive attribution from the global equity managed Dodge and Cox. You use equity composite. And as I talked, we had some underperformance from your non-US equities and the emerging markets overweight with non-US equities. And the reason we do that, as I had said, is emerging markets tend to go back up. So when we're looking at this market starting to rebound, when that is, I don't know, that is actually going to help you. And then here's something that you have done very well. You went and diversified into that real estate. It had a 7% return for the quarter. So it was positive when everything else was down negative. And for the trailing 12 months, you had a return of 27.6. Remember when we were looking at COVID, when COVID came on, real estate really struggled. Your managers have made a lot of changes in their portfolio, in that real estate portfolio, and that has really benefited you. And we'll go look at what the managers have done. We did fund infrastructure, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then next time I'm out, which will be in June, we want to go look at your investment policy statement, just kind of update it and make sure that's where, just to have a discussion and talk about your asset allocation. So we actually want to go now down. Let's turn the page. We're going to look at that for 3 years. You've done 11.6. For 5 years, you've analyzed 9.8. You're well within your policy targets. And then I'm going to scroll through here so we can look at what your managers did. And that's at the end of this tab if you want to turn to it. And so we'll just scroll real quickly. All right. So we're now on page 38. So year to date, you did minus 4.1 versus 4.2. We had some good performance from your Dodge and Cox. Look at that. Your global equity did 2.3 versus a negative 1.0. So it was positive when the market was down, and they've actually got a 5-year return annualized of 9.8. We did put you into AB Global Core Equity Portfolio. That has not had a full year. We are not concerned about that. And artists, you say, well, they're really off mark. And in up market, they actually do very, very well. We reposition the portfolio and we're comfortable with it. MFS low volatility for the year did 10.8 versus 8.6. And then we go look at your non-US equity composite. Look at Schroders. Schroders was positive when the market was down. For the year did 5.3 versus 3.1. Fidelity Total International Index, it's just the index of what it's going to do. And then we actually made some changes. We put in Wellington Emerging Market Opportunities, and we put in Harding Lover. I think you're really going to start seeing that diversification in this. It's going to take a little bit of time. You can look at that for the 2 months that it was out, but off, but that is just a very short time period. We really like these managers there. You can see we've done infrastructure. So Morgan Stanley, you can see, first of all, for 3 years, it's done 11.3. You put it in October, it's annualized at 10.7 versus the bench of 9.6. And this is has given you some very nice returns. We know that we're using that actually as income. And remember, we diversified out of fixed, and we'll talk a little bit about the fixed income on the next page. You can see since January going into infrastructure, you've done 6.7%. So that was a good diversification as well. Fixed income. Well, you've got, we've made some changes to the fixed income. We'll talk a little bit about that. Sees McKee has done well for you in the trailing 1 year. They've done negative 4.1 versus 4.2. And then we look at your fixed income composites done negative 3.9 versus 4.2. Interestingly enough, in April, fixed income and equities were down 13%. Fixed income was down 10%. That is the first time it's happened. It's only happened 3 times historically. Are there any questions on the first quarter? All right.
I do have a question.
Sure.
I think our diversification is certainly helping, and I think so is OCIO. And I just was wondering if you could just briefly discuss about the fact that the county went to OCIO, and if we didn't have gone to OCIO with this market turbulence recently, maybe perhaps how much worse it would have been.
So what I'm gonna do is actually, then I'm gonna jump, because I think I wanna show you, so let me do this. Can everybody see that new page on the screen?
You're still on 40.
Okay, let me go share this one, okay. All right. Okay, let's get out of that and let's go. We're gonna go back to sharing screens, share screen. And we are going to go to this. All right, can you see this one now?
Yes.
Okay, I think this really talks about OCIO. It talks about a little bit of the why this made a difference. This was as of May 13th, you can see the values at 85.16. The most important thing that we've had the ability to do is to move around in this portfolio with your set investment policy and your asset allocation. So the one thing that we did was we took some money, we made sure that you were in line. You were a little bit overweighted in your property fund, your infrastructure fund. We took 100,000 out. And below, we made a decision. We looked at what was happening in this fixed income market and how these managers were all working around your active manager, CS McKee. And we went into the Baggery Core Plus. We feel like that is a better position to be in. And so we made those trades. We took a little bit out of, and then we took money out of the Fidelity US Bond Index. And then we put money back into the market. And you can say, well, why are you putting money back in? We always want to make sure that you're within your allocation, your target. So you actually ended up buying back in at a lower rate. If we had to come back to you at this meeting, you would have to approve that. It would have waited another, month possibly in doing a meeting. So this is where OCIO has really helped you, that we're able to make asset allocation, make sure that you're at target, make manager changes, and be able to work within your investment policy, but also be active in this type of market. Are there any questions?
Any additional questions?
All right, so what I would like to share with you too is we're going to get out of this and then we'll go back to sharing screen and we'll go to the next screen. All right. All right, can you see that? Oh, we're going to go back and share the screen. All right, I'll just speak to this because for some reason it will not let me share my screen with you. All right. Okay, the other thing that we have is when we look at the asset allocation, this is again for the OCIO, just want to say that briefly as of April 30th, the fund was down 5.9 versus 6.3 and year to date 9.7 versus 10.2. So in that down market, we've been able to outperform there. And unfortunately, every single asset class currently is negative. I mean, there's really nowhere to hide in this market. Are there any questions?
I don't hear any.
No, I hate to be the deliverer of bad news. You know, it's been very hard, this market. I think you're well diversified. You're positioned not to take as much going down in the market. You know, obviously, we're keeping our eyes on it. We're looking at it. We are running our asset allocation sheets to make sure that you're not off target. You know, at one point, since the move of this market this week, we may not bring you totally back to target. We are talking about instituting, you know, going back a little bit at each time. You know, it is a lot of bad news. There are some good news, and that's what's, you know, hopefully going to, you know, continue to not be as negative in this market. You know, corporate earnings, we've got a lot of earnings coming out there. And remember, 2 years ago, when money was very cheap for these corporations, they are able to borrow, they were able to get some cash on their balance sheets. So a lot of the earnings we still feel may not be, they're still going to be positive. So that's going to hopefully keep some of the volatility out of the market. We know that we've got the Ukraine and the Russia crisis, and we know that this inflation, and you know, the Fed is really going to try and keep inflation down. And that with those interest rates, you are going to see a shift in the real estate market. Hopefully they can keep inflation down. And I think that we're just going to have to sit back and wait. You know, and see what comes of it in the next 6 to 9 months.
Sarah, this is Chris. Can you explain why under the small mid-cap top holdings, I noticed that Alphabet is listed twice at 2.0 and 2.2%?
Okay, let me get, and what page are you looking on that?
That was 40, that is 44.
Okay, let me go look at that. I just want to get it for you. Let me just, okay, 40. You're on page
44.
44. All right. It is actually that probably with Alphabet Inc. I will check on that. It could be the preferred as well, but let me just double check on that.
Okay, so
Could I
preferred
speak
stock
to
and
that?
common stock?
I know in my own personal portfolio, I had Google stock for about 10 years. And a few years ago, there was a split when they became Alphabet, and it became two different classes of stock. I think that's just what that is. It's two different classes.
It is. They did come out with two different on there. And that's also, you know, we believe that, you know, having the index fund, just so you know, you do want to be able to have exposure to that. Till this right now, we have not found a manager that does, you know, that is kind of a core S&P 500 manager that makes sense getting there. So we want you to have exposure to that, but we believe that the more active managers are in the global and international space. Are there any other questions on the market?
No, this is Wayne, and I would just say that everything considered, I think we're lucky to be where we're at right now in our investment. Fortunately, we are well ahead of a lot of other counties in our portfolio. So, yeah, although we're all down and not happy with it, but I think we're still doing good.
I think you have, and you know, I really credit the board. You made some great changes in the last 2 years. And that has really helped you. And I'm sure, you know, talking to some of your counterparts, they're not looking as well as you are. And, you know, we knew there was going to be some rough times ahead of us. I think that was one of the reasons why you chose to go into OCIO. And I think this diversification, infrastructure, real estate, and even with your global managers, I think you're a well-diversified portfolio. So, you know, I commend the board on doing it, because I think it is really down the road, you're going to look past at this and say, you know, 2022 was not a great year, but we did a lot better than a lot of other counties in, in our position.
And Sarah, I think it's Mark. I think it's also important to remember that 2 years ago when the pandemic hit and things looked really dire and the market dropped, 20 to 30% and came back, we actually had some really good returns that next year and a half. So now we're in a period of market turbulence again. But because we're long-term investors, just like a lot of individuals, being diversified and following OCIO, I think will, serve the county well as we go forward.
I think so too. And you've gone down to 7.25. That's gonna be good for you. And the volatility, I mean, we've all had to live through it. 08 was, a tough time. We've lived through this pandemic. And in the years, you've had some great performance. So it's going to be a little bit tough. I have, lived through it. I've been in this market since the 1990s working in it. And, you just have to kind of get through this. It's not fun being the deliverer of bad news, but it can be much worse.
I believe you're attending the meeting in person in June, I think.
I am attending the meeting in June in person. I really kind of want, we'll see where the market is. I think what we'll do is we'll have an update on performance, but I also kind of really want to delve down a little bit on the market and, hopefully we'll see some changes on there and talk a little bit about your infrastructure manager and get you some information on that.
Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us virtually.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sarah at this point? Thank you. All right, then we'll move on to new business. Anything for new business for the retirement board? Hearing none. Any old business to review? None. Any further business? If not, Mr. Chairman.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
News media. Okay.
Dean, do you have any questions to report?